Enacting proportional representation doesn't require any constitutional changes. True, a law was passed in 1967 that banned multi-member districts in the US, but if overturning one law is all it takes, that is the smallest of potatoes. According to the Constitution, each state has the power to decide how they elect representatives to Congress. In fact, more than a quarter of House seats were elected in multi-seat districts before 1842. Most state legislators were elected in multi-winner districts until the 1950s, and plenty of local officials are elected this way right now. Proportional representation is tried and proven with a long history right here in the United States. But what about Italy and Israel? Those two countries are most often cited as counterexamples when discussing proportional reforms. The stereotype is that countries like Italy and Israel that have proportional representation are paralyzed, held hostage by their minority parties, and can never get anything done because their coalition governments keep collapsing. This is supposed to be much worse than the current American system, which is never held hostage by a minority party and gets so much done, I guess. Of course, we don't have coalition governments here. Instead, the only time a cohesive agenda moves forward in the US is when one party holds both houses of Congress and the presidency, about once every 10 years or so. And the few bipartisan laws that pass are massive boondoggles where the political investor class is lavished with everything they want. Some things are never pointed out when the dangers of proportional representation are discussed. Among them is the voting threshold in the bad countries. Cherry-picked countries like Italy and Israel used to have extremely low voter thresholds. For a political party to get into the Italian parliament, they once needed only 2% of the vote, so long as they were part of a coalition. Any party not in a coalition only needed 4% for a seat in parliament. Italians used to joke about it, saying things like, "Look, I fund a party, my mother funds a party, and my father as well. We join together into a coalition, and we get 30 votes. In Italy, everybody can go to parliament. That's democracy!" Israel has a similar low threshold for minority parties. There are 120 seats in the Israeli Knesset, with all seats awarded proportionally, in one national election with no district boundaries. Until 2014, it was possible to get a seat in the Knesset with only 2% of the vote. This was causing problems because extremist minority parties often tied things up. So in 2015, Israel hiked the threshold up to 3.25%. In 2017, Italy updated their electoral system and changed a bunch of stuff around, not really worth getting into here. The point is that places like Italy and Israel had problems with proportional representation because their electoral thresholds were so low. It's possible to avoid these problems by having higher proportional thresholds, like 10%. The truth is that most of the established democracies on Earth use proportional representation and have none of the problems that Italy and Israel commonly ran into. The global trend is away from winner-take-all. The last holdouts among major established democracies are places like the UK and Canada. For more than a century now, when younger nations have formed their governments, they have taken their inspiration from places other than the United States or Britain. I realize change can be scary. Any movement towards bringing proportional representation to the US would be sure to face heavy opposition from the major parties. They are the masters of the current broken political system and will surely stop at nothing to preserve it. But that doesn't mean we can't change it. I know it sounds like an impossible uphill climb, but it's not. If a majority of Americans decided we want that, we could get it. You may think I sound crazy or foolish for saying that, but it's true. Everything is on the table, including this. We can get it if we want to. All we need to do is join together in our own self-interest to make it happen. Republican voters and Democratic voters would all benefit from proportional representation. No one would get left out anymore. Orphan voters would be a thing of the past. Shouldn't everyone's vote count? Please give me a like, a follow, a favorite, and subscribe to my free Substack. Let's make them pay.